was downtown attending an event at the Garth Homer event yesterday in downtown Victoria. And just as I was coming along Government Street in Victoria, just about at Johnson, my right front wheel hit one of those beautiful old trees that have the nice little decoration underneath it around the tree trunk roots, and my wheel came off the tire frame. But I didn't know that's what happened until I started to cross Johnson Street, and all of a sudden, it became evident that this was not good, and I looked down and I went, oh, no, this is so not good. So it's not like you can just pull into, a Jiffy Lube and get your tire done. So it was a whole series of events that was my whole afternoon yesterday, just trying to get my tire fixed. So anyways, that's just an aside. Oh, hey, there's me. So my story started 2008. I was fine, fabulous, and 46, when all of a sudden I had tinglings in my left cheek, tinglings in my left arm, and then tinglings in my left leg. Like, when you fall asleep on your arm and you wake up and you go, geez, oh, come on, wake up, wake up. Well, it didn't. We went to my doctor and he said, you're fine. And I said, but I'm not fine. I can't feel the left side of my body. He said, but you're overworked, Suzanne. Okay, yes, I was. I was traveling a lot. I was very busy, had a husband, we had a great life. And he said, just go home and relax. And I said, but how do I go home and relax? And he said, trust me. 2 days later, I was at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver, and they said to my husband, I don't know if Suzanne's going to make the night. I acquired a neuromuscular disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I became paralyzed literally overnight. So that's me, and that's my poor husband, who just had no idea what was going on, as I did. And one of the biggest things, anybody here, I think anybody, any woman that's had a baby, anybody that's been in the hospital, anybody that's had any kind of challenge in their lives, what's the first thing you lose? Your dignity. So there I am flying through the air, and they don't take a lot of time to make sure your private parts are tucked in. So anybody walking down the hallway can just see my bits and pieces. I call it the flying beaver, because that's what I was. Embarrassing, but it's just one of the many things that you go through. Every 2 hours, the doctors would come along, my whole team of neurologists, and they would take that little forklift toy and they would tap me on my forehead, on my arms, on my legs, on my knees, on my feet, everywhere, to still see if I had any feeling. Nope. And this went on for months and months. I got very lucky. The first team of specialists that came from GF Strong turned me down because I was an acute care patient, which is a hospital, and GF Strong is rehab. So they turned me down because, quite frankly, I just took too much care. I was a 2-person nurse, not a 1, and in rehab, it's a 1. I had a doctor that came after I got turned down, and she said, oh, Suzanne, if we don't get you out of here, you're never going to get out of here. So she called the GF Strong team back in, and I said, could you please let my husband know when they're coming so he can be here for it? And she did, and they came, and they said, we don't like to do this because it's just not our philosophy. It's not what we're built on, but we're going to take a chance on you. And I said, you take a chance on me, and I'm going to take a chance on you. So I got there, and then the real work happened. However, when I arrived, the nurse came up to us and said, whoa, 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 what are you doing here? And we said, well, I'm here. And the nurse said, no, you can't be here. This is rehab. You have to go back to where you were. And I said, I was nowhere. I was at a hospital that they just evicted me from to come here. And they said, well, you can't be here. This is rehab. And I was very lucky because I had a doctor who I didn't know yet that came in and said, Mrs. Jennings, you're exactly where you need to be. I'm the doctor, and this is where you need to be. So don't worry about all that negativity, because you need every ounce of energy to ride that hill to your recovery. And I'll never forget that. And these pictures remind me of those. My husband and I sat there and cried like babies for that day. Has anyone ever experienced any of these machines, this tilt table? I call it the fastest way of losing your breasts. They push you so hard because they have to in these straps to get you up. And I've been paralyzed now for 6 months when they put me in this machine. And it was just terrifying. But I did it. And that was the first of many. So this is really what we call God's great sense of humor, because that's the first finger that I got back. Not the thumb, but the middle finger. Learning to walk. They said, I'll never learn how to walk, but I need to grow my core so that I can live in a chair. And I said, okay, well, you just keep telling me those things that I cannot do, and we'll just keep knocking those things down, and I'll be able to do them. So they said I'd never be able to do this. Even though I was lifted above, you still have to have the strength to hold yourself up, even though you're like a puppet being held up. So we did that one, and then a whole lot, and then they said I'll never be able to go home. I'll have to go to a special facility because my husband, care aides, no one would be able to look after me. And after 7.5 months, I came home. Such a day. Yeah. So we wrote a book called Paralyzed Without Warning because I was what? Paralyzed without warning. So we did a lot of media, and Jill Kropp from BC Global did interviews, and we went from one end of Canada to the other. I've done a lot of different presentations and making a difference. We have voices. Maybe not as fierce as they used to be. Maybe we don't do the same job as we used to do. I was told I'd never have a voice again. And again, that's all negative energy. I have a voice, and I'm using my voice in a different way. But I'm really excited when I get an opportunity to work with partners like BC Transit, Handy Dart, Spinal Cord Injury BC, Rick Hansen Foundation. 7 years ago, I got breast cancer. And I thought, really? Come on. And I had a double mastectomy. They originally did a partial mastectomy because I was supposed to only have a peanut-sized tumor on my right breast. So my oncologist said, easy peasy, Suzanne. You come in, we're just going to take a little piece of your breast out. You're going to be all good. Once they cut me open, I was covered in cancer. So I woke up with no breasts and a lot of my front area dissected. And I woke up and I was like, when I came into the recovery room, as anyone that's ever had an operation, going like, wait, my breast is here. Did did you take a wrong turn? So, so those of us with any type of a disfiguring issue, when you wake up a woman without your breasts, when you're not expecting it, let me tell you, that was a real, hard thing to overcome for a short time. And then I woke up one morning, looked at myself and went, you know what, it's only skin. All of our body parts, they're only skin, right? I'm a survivor, I'm a thriver. So, that's my story. So I'm a chair of the City of Victoria's Accessibility Advisory Committee. I'm on the Destination British Columbia's Accessibility and Inclusion Committee. And I'm also on BC Transit's Accessible Transportation Advisory Committee. So I'm using my voice, and I'm here speaking to you all here today, the same thing. We all have a voice, might not be the voice maybe we were born with or that we started our journey with, but if we all do one thing and try to make a difference collectively, we can make great differences. So I thank you all. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for listening to me.